I've got this. I've got that, and I've got this, and one more quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the We Be Free radio show, Brain Food from the Heartland, and I am so delighted to have Leanne, Kale, Sparks returning to the show. Leanne, good morning to you. Welcome.
So excited to be here. I love coming to visit with you.
Seriously?
So much fun. I do.
Oh,
I have so much fun.
Thank you. I had a blast with you last time. I really, really did. I enjoyed talking with you and about the dogs too.
Yeah, of
we
course,
may get to the dogs, right?
So we may.
For new listeners, a little bit about yourself.
I am a crime thriller author. I have a brand new, well, it's not so much brand new. It's been out for about 6 months, I guess. It was released in February. It's called The Wrong Woman. It is about a FBI special agent who gets into, well, she starts investigating some crimes against children, and that kind of leads into her best friend is murdered, and she hooks up with a Denver police detective, and they start investigating the murder of her best friend. And along the way, she uncovers a bunch of secrets that she didn't know about her best friend. And then we're going to throw in a serial killer, and just to mix it up a bit. And yeah, at the end, it all comes together, sort of.
Yeah. And how you do that is beyond me. But a little bit more about your path to writing.
Oh,
you have an
wow.
interesting path.
So
you do.
For everybody else.
You do.
So I was born in Colorado Springs. My book is set in Denver, so I tried to get back there. But I moved around a whole bunch, married to the military. My husband was in the military. He was in the Navy for 28 years. During that time, I decided that I was going to be a lawyer. So I did that whole thing. And I did a little bit of work in criminal defense and some family law. So that's always fun. And then because he moves around so much, I decided I just did not want to take the bar exam anymore. So I stopped.
Well, that's right. You have to take it for every state.
Well, you don't.
Is that correct
sometimes,
or no?
Well, it depends on the state.
I see.
Every
Some will
state
accept it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Some that have reciprocity with other states or with every state, but there are some that are persnickety, and we moved to the persnickety ones, like Maryland and California. And so I got tired of taking the bar exam, and one day I said, I think I want to write, and he was like, okay. And that was it.
And that was it.
I started writing it.
Look at you now.
I started writing.
When you say that about being a defense lawyer, and
Mm-hmm.
I've got to say, because I know a lot of people get, I don't know what's angry, upset, or whatever when they're watching something or reading about a trial about the defense lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of what we are entitled to in the United States.
It absolutely
good defense,
is.
and somebody's got to do it.
Yep. It's when you become a criminal defense attorney, it's your obligation to zealously represent your client, because otherwise it's uneven. The state or the government always has all of the resources, and so they have the attorney on their side. And so the person whose liberty is at risk of being taken away deserves at least that much. And so that's when criminal defense attorneys come in. And it's funny, I always say people complain about, the wacky defenses that come out. But, as a defense attorney, you kind of have to take your client as you get them. I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And you are under this obligation to zealously represent them. But I always say that people are always offended with defense attorneys and how disgusting they are until they need one. And then they want all the stops pulled out. And they want you to do everything for them and keep them out. And it's a very desperate situation, because nobody wants their liberties taken away from them. And you don't want to go to prison. There's so many people in prison that are wrongfully committed. I could go on a whole bent about that. So
well, again, and I'm glad you said that, because again, I'm reading, I don't want to say all the time, but about people who they let out of prison and then, sued for a lot of money. I was just reading one over the weekend. I don't have the facts in my head, course, like millions of dollars because they were wrongfully
incarcerated. Yeah, and
incarcerated,
in
and that's
yeah.
just, I'm sorry.
It's horrible. It's horrible. I when I was in law school, I was president of our chapter of the Innocence Project. So that was
They've
a lot
been
of
on
fun.
with me. Yeah.
It's a great organization. They do really good work. But the sad thing is all of these people, yeah, you get out and you sue, and eventually, you know, hopefully they figure out that you were wrongfully committed and they have to compensate you. But there's no getting that time back.
That's
There's
right.
that no amount of money will get that time back, which is why defense attorneys need to be zealous. That's why they have to pull out all the stops, because you don't want that to happen. People shouldn't be in prison. People that should be in prison should be in prison. There's not a defense attorney out there that doesn't think that bad people should not be in prison, but good people should not. And you have to make sure. You just have to make sure.
That's right. And again, until you need one, you know, people, you know, I mean, I'm thinking of Tom Waits. You probably don't know the singer. You know the singer Tom Waits?
Yeah, I do.
Anyhow, there's a line in one of his songs. He's a lawyer. He ain't the one. I shouldn't sing. No one wants to hear me sing. He's a lawyer. He ain't the one for you. And it's just, you know, and again, attorneys can get a bad rap, and there's good and bad in every aspect. But they get a bad rap. Yet when we find out that people have been wrongly convicted and imprisoned, I mean, that's, again, I hope you don't mind if I'm going here.
Oh, no,
because I think it's important.
Not at all.
One of the things that's disturbing to me about the death penalty, and believe me, when I read about something horrible with a rapist or a murderer or child molester, whatever, that because people have been, if we kill somebody, then we've murdered somebody, we've murdered an innocent person. And I'm one, and again, I'm the ancient one here. I remember back in the maybe very early 70s, I had a button that said, why do we kill people who kill people to show that killing people is wrong?
Exactly.
And again, we make one mistake if we have, and again, I don't know the history of everything, but if we've made one mistake, then we, the people, have murdered somebody, have taken an innocent.
And the interesting part of that is that because there are so many safeguards in place, when you put somebody on death row, they have a multitude of appeals that they are allowed to have. So you end up putting somebody on death row, and they spend probably just as much time on death row as they would have if you'd given them life. They are on there so you are paying for this person to be on death row, and because they are considered indigent, you're paying for their legal fees too. So it doesn't make much sense. It just doesn't make much sense.
No, absolutely. And I agree with you. And I'm glad that we talked about that, because again, I think it's very, very important. And you as a lawyer understand that, and working with the Innocence Project, et cetera, know that certainly better than I do. And again, the website, we've got links up at louisfreeshow.com and at wfmj.com, Leanne, Kale, Sparks.com. And let's talk about the book. The book has been out, and it's interesting because I'm thinking, you know, time for me, it's like, wow, that's right. We talked in, I think, February.
Yeah.
Right. And it's
right after the release.
Already May.
I know. Where is the time gone? It's crazy.
Away. That's what I always say when people say, where does the time go? Away.
It goes. So make the most of it, right?
Yeah.
Make the most of it. Yeah.
So what's it been like?
It's been crazy. It's been crazy. It's been great. I've been promoting the book. I've been getting a lot of good feedback. So people are enjoying it. I've been getting a lot of questions of, are we going to see more of Kendall Beck? And I can answer that we are. I'm getting ready this weekend. I'm really excited. I get to go home. I have not been home to Colorado Springs.
You've got a signing, an author signing.
Yeah, I do. I have an author signing at the Barnes & Noble on Briargate. And so anybody that's in the Colorado Springs area, it is on North Academy. You can't go any farther, and it's off to the right. Can't miss it. So yeah, I'm super excited to get back there. I haven't been back there in probably like 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm really excited. I love going home. I left there. I moved out of there in 1991. Been back there every so often, but Yeah, I miss it. I miss the mountains.
It's going to be
I'm
wonderful.
a mountain girl.
Back
Yeah, it
to-
is. It's going to be
right.
great.
Back to
great.
that signing. Again,
Yep.
when people get the opportunity to see you and
Mhm.
talk with you and get their book signed, by the way,
Yeah.
which is great, right? Which
Yeah,
is
it's
really,
fun.
really great. It's got to be a wonderful experience for you as an author.
It is surreal. It's very, I mean, that people want to come out and read what you wrote is just like, I mean, we write and we put it out there and we think it's good and we're like this story, because a lot of times it's in your head and you just got to get it out of your head and you hope other people like it. And so when people come up and they say they do like it, it's really fun. It's kind of funny because I think that readers are excited to meet an author and, oh, it's the person that wrote this book, but they don't understand that the author is just excited to meet them.
That's
like,
wonderful.
You want to read my book and you liked it and come and talk to me about that. So yeah, it's great. I mean, I would encourage anybody, if you think the authors don't want to hear from you, or they're too busy, or, they just don't care what you have to say, wrong. We love to talk to readers. We love to hear from readers.
It's got to be an amazing experience because you've created this world and people want to read it and want to meet you.
Yeah. And want more. And that's the exciting part.
Leanne, let's talk about more. Book two. Book
two is called Every Missing Girl. That's the title so far.
Every Missing
Subject
Girl.
to change, as everything is. And it will be releasing next February. And in this book, we're going to turn the tables a little bit. And Kendall and Adam get to work on a case again. It is a double homicide at a convenience store where they find a missing girl. So we're going to do that. But as that is unfolding and they're working on that, unfortunately, Adam's niece goes missing. And so they're having to work both cases at the same time. And so I like to have that personal kind of draw to the tragedy. I think I don't know why that interests me so much, but I think
unexpected for the readers. That's going to be totally unexpected.
Yeah,
unless they listen to this interview and remember it next February.
Right. I think that a lot of times, as in any profession, you can get caught up in things and it just becomes mundane and it becomes just another thing. And I do like to kind of play that out where they recognize that in normal life, when they're just investigating a case that doesn't have the personal draw, that there are things that they have to do. They have to block it out. There's jokes, off-color jokes that they make because they have to be disengaged. But what happens when you just can't? Something happens and it's a family member, it's somebody that's close to you. And how do you deal with trying to investigate something and not let the personal stuff get in the way? So
when you create the characters, again, it's true crime. Again, I haven't written a book, so easy for me to say. When you're writing nonfiction or whatever, you've got the facts and you are able to weave them together to tell the story. But you're creating all the characters. I know we touched on this last time. You're actually creating characters and creating the scenes, all the scenes.
Yep.
What's that like for you?
Well, exhausting. But I mean, so I kind of have this idea of where I want the book to go. And like anything, when you start down a road, you think you know exactly where you're going, you have a plan, and then everything gets thrown in. And it's interesting to me how I can continue to learn more about the characters as I'm writing them, which is exciting because I think that translates into the reader learning more about the characters also and learning tidbits about them that they didn't know. So it's always a surprise when I can figure something out. But it's also the scenes. It's also, you're writing and then you think you're going to go this way and then the scene starts going this way and you're like, ooh, that's better. I like that better. And I didn't see that coming. And it's just,
That's
I think it's just your
amazing.
brain
Yeah.
starting to catch up with you and going, okay, well, wait, but what did you think about this? But what about this? And how would this work? And so it's a fun exercise. It's exhausting sometimes, but it's a fun exercise.
That's again, that's I love that when you say that, because it's like it's going, it starts to have, what do I want to say, a life of its own,
It does.
and
Absolutely.
starts opening a different path than you had originally intended.
Yep. It is. You hear authors talk about they don't write the story, the character writes the story. And I really
I've
think
heard
that's really kind of the best way to explain what goes on inside a writer's head, because you think you know where you want this book to go, and then it's like things clear up, and you just kind of, it's kind of like when you're reading one of these books and you're getting all the information and you're like, ooh, but wait a minute, back there that happened. That's kind of the same way that a writer's brain works. It's like, okay, wait a minute, I had something that happened back there, could I pull it up here? And oh wait, this person over here. And sometimes a minor character that you just needed as a filler person becomes a much bigger person. Like in book 2, there's the guy that owns the convenience store was just a bit little, I just needed Adam to ask questions about, the people that had died in the store and what had happened, and all the employees. And it kind of took on this life of its own, and without giving anything away, because it's still in editing, so I don't really know what's going on, but it could totally get cut. But, as you're writing, it's kind of like, okay, but maybe I could bring this person in and make this part of the story. And I mean, in book 1, in The Wrong Woman, that little bit part ended up being the big ending. I mean, it was just the ending completely switched for me. I thought I knew who the bad guy was, and as I was writing it and I was getting towards the end, I was like, oh wait a minute, nope, that's not who the bad guy is. And it completely changed, because my brain was like, oh no, this would be better, this would be more intriguing, and you just kind of go with it, kind of let it take over and go, and it's usually right.
I can remember Leanne Kale Sparks, the first time a novelist said that the characters speak to him, and he was writing something, and he said, "No, I wouldn't do that." The character said, "I wouldn't do that. I would do that." And I just think that creative process is just incredible.
Yeah,
and when you say that it went in a different direction, like it went in a different direction.
It did.
That's
it
you.
Did.
That's your brain.
It's kind of,
I love that.
I always call it socially acceptable schizophrenia. You're allowed to have the voices. They're good voices in your head. And
socially acceptable schizophrenia. I love that.
It is. It's it's not hurting anybody. You're just putting words on a thing. But yeah, you do. You have all these people living in your head. And the worst part is, and I think most authors feel it when you're getting into that over the hump part of writing the book, the middle to the end, and it's starting to build up, and you're really getting towards the end, and then all of a sudden an idea pops in your head, and you're like, oh, go away. I can't deal with you right now. And it will not go away. And so many times you'll hear authors say that, you got to write it down. You just stop, write it down, get it over here onto something, onto a paper, onto another, document in your computer. Just get it out, get what you can out, because you will never be able to get back to your book unless you do. You got to do a little bit of a mental exercise, because new voices are really powerful.
Wow.
They're like baby vampires or baby rattlesnakes, They don't know their own strength.
That's great. The Wrong Woman, again, you're going to be doing a signing at the Barnes and Noble, and I just think that's going to be wonderful. I can't wait to hear about how that is for you. But Leanne Kale Sparks, when you think about the the time that you put in to writing, is there something that, how do I want to say it? Is there like a certain time that you do it every day? Do you get up in the middle of the night and start writing? Or if you have an idea, what do you do if you're, on the way to, I don't know. I don't want to be,
it is, I don't have this. I know that there are authors that have set schedules. It's probably the really successful ones that can sit down and it's a job for them and they can sit down and they write every day for a certain amount of time. I can't do that. I'm so all over the place. With the second book that I was writing, it started out that it was in the morning. I was very productive as soon as I got up. In fact, I started getting up even earlier. I'd get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning when it was all quiet and nobody was awake. And I could whip out just a ton of writing up until like 10 o'clock in the morning. And it was just kind of like, boom. And then I'd be slow down. Then I'd have to take more breaks during the day and I'd slow down into the afternoon. Then it switched. Somewhere along the way it switched and I was really successful at writing at night.
Wow, that's interesting.
Like 7 till midnight, I was able to write and get it all out. And then I'd be wiped out and ready for bed. And then I could get up. And then again, it switched towards the end of writing this book.
That's interesting.
Switched back to the morning. And then of course, then you get on deadline and you write all the time because you're going through and editing and adding and doing all this stuff and you're freaking out because you're on deadline and you have deadline brain and nothing gets done around the house. And so
deadline brain.
You got deadline brain. My poor husband. He just deals with a lot when I'm on deadline. It's just like, don't talk to me. And he's responsible for everything that goes on in the house. Yep. And it's weird because I also, not only do I have different times of the day I write, where in the house I can write is weird because I have this great office. It's huge and I have everything I need. And I started probably a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I moved downstairs to the kitchen table, which is in the center of everything. Yeah. But that's where I just, nothing was happening for me up in my office. So I moved down to the kitchen table and the sad part about it is I take over everything. I mean, it's not just a matter of taking there's no table. I mean, if you saw the side of my refrigerator have sticky notes all over it that have little, what every chapter is so that I can move stuff around and I can see it and here sits my lovely office empty and I'm down at the kitchen table taking over the entire room.
Leanne, that's really interesting because I start to think, and I don't know if you know exactly, but what took you, nothing was happening in the office, but you thought, let me go somewhere else and see what happens.
Yeah, I tried. It's not like, and it's not intuitive either because I went downstairs and I thought, well, maybe if I sit on the couch, because then I'm in a different position. And that didn't work at all. It was really, I sat there and I was like, I wonder what's on TV. So that's not good. And it's just, I think it just, I needed to feel like I was, I don't know. I can't explain it. And so I'm not going to even try. It just is. So I go with it. I figure I just went over and plopped everything down and then I started writing and it was working. So then I brought everything down that I needed to write down there and all my notes, and everything. So it does turn out to be a mess. I mean, I would show you, but it's scary, but I'd
like to see sometime, by the way. Send me a picture. Send me a picture. Text me a picture. Yeah.
But I'm a little bit old school in that, I can type everything and I have, the software for writers. And I use that. I can type everything in, but once I type it in, then when I go back to like edit and stuff, I have to print out the each chapter as I'm doing it because I have to write. That's the only way. I cannot edit on the screen that first time.
I see.
And so,
interesting.
I've got all my colored Sharpies out. and they have really cool Sharpies now that are like pens. They're wonderful.
Oh, that
So
like that gel, the gel pens.
yeah, the
or
gel
something?
pens,
Yeah.
they're wonderful. I'm a big Sharpie fan. So I have every style of Sharpie that you can imagine. But yeah, so I can sit down and I do that, and it's all color coordinated, and I sit there and then I have to put everything back in. So it takes me twice as long to do it, but it's just how my brain works. I can't do it any other way.
I find that absolutely fascinating. And then, and how it changed things when you moved from your office to the kitchen table. And also not edit. I'm sure there's great software out there to edit, online.
Yeah.
While you're,
Yep.
yet that doesn't work for you.
No, it
You
doesn't.
found
It
another
doesn't
way
work.
to do it.
And sadly it's a lesson that sometimes my husband laughs at me, because every time I start writing a book, I have to relearn all the lessons, because I know what I need to do. I know when I get to a certain point, it's like, okay, you're hitting a wall, go do this. But no, my brain says, no, just push through, power through it, Leanne. And it's like, I waste so much time thinking that I have writer's block or just not being able to do anything, because I have to relearn all of the lessons all over again, like having to print out the pages and actually write on them. That's a lesson I learned. I go through and I'm like, why am I not engaging in this chapter at all? Why can't I get the creative juices flowing anymore on this chapter? And I always argue, oh, you've read it too many times and you need to just let it sit, which is true. But
that
then
works
also
sometimes.
it does. Well, it
get away from it.
Yep. And so it works really well, because once you get it done, because the story so well, it too well. So when you go back through and you're reading it, you already know what's in your brain, but that's not necessarily what you have down on the paper or in the computer as it is. So yeah, so that's my crazy.
That's really,
Writers are crazy. We're insane.
I think everybody, I think everybody's a bit crazy
in their own way.
Makes me think of one of my favorite lines from the 1930 something Dracula, where the one of the caretakers
Lon Chaney.
This was Bela Lugosi, but this is not him saying it. There's a caretaker and he's talking with another employee of the sanitarium or whatever, and he says they're all crazy, all except for you and me, and sometimes I'm not so sure about you.
Yep.
It's great. Sorry for that. It was just one of my favorite, one of my favorite lines. It's
insightful.
Yeah. But you say about writers being, creative would be another.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy, or
maybe not crazy, but I mean,
crazy or.
Crazy.
I think we just
the difference is like my husband he works at it's not 9 to 5 really, but he works for a corporation, and so he is on the phone all day. He is in business meetings all day. He has there's set things that he has to do. There's things that come up and are different, but with a writer, you just can't. Sometimes you sit down and you just stare. I mean, so many times he got used to it. He knows now, but back in the early days, it didn't look like I was working, because I was just sitting there staring off into space. And it's you have to have those moments of, okay, where am I going with this? What am I doing? And so you're not actively working, but your brain's actively engaged in writing the book.
And then if you write notes down, right? Correct?
Right. Gosh, I have every size of sticky note available, including the big, wall sticky notes. And that's, I have notes everywhere. I have so many notes.
Big sticky notes?
I do. Usually really? I have whiteboards up there. They make this whiteboard sticky stuff that goes up on the walls. And that's usually what I have up, but I don't have that up now. So I use the big sticky notes. But I mean, I have legal pads, because I'm used to legal pads.
Of course.
This is the way I am. But I write notes, and then I'll have like 4 or 5 legal pads that have notes in them. So I'm going, okay, where was that note for this? And I could be writing a scene and think, hey, go back and add this to this. And so I'll just write it down real quick. And then I have to go through all of my notes, all of my sticky notes, all of my legal pads, and go, where was the notes for this? And kind of get them all together and do it that way. But and I'm also a big plotter too. So I have everything is kind of in outline form. So so I've got like 12 different outlines that I'm working off of too. So.
And you know where they all are, correct? You're very well organized.
It's organized chaos. It's organized chaos. It was funny because I was working last night and about 2:00 in the morning, I'm like, I know I wrote something in this scene. Where is the notes? And I'm going through everything. And yeah, it was chaotic, but yeah, I mean, no, they're not organized at all.
I love that. I had someone say about the studio once, I was talking about it being so chaotic, and they said organized chaos. I said, no, it's just chaos. This is not organized. Yeah. I'm sure yours is, but not on my end. I'm talking with Leanne Kale Sparks, LeanneKaleSparks.com. Of course, your book, The Wrong Woman, is available everywhere and everywhere online. And I always like to say, buy it as close to home as possible. I'm sure I said that when you were on with me before. And I love independent bookstores, but I've come to really appreciate Barnes and Nobles so much more, because even when you think about it, they're hiring people and employing people that are in your community. They're renting or owning space in your community. And it's a place you can come and browse through books, which is, I mean, I can get lost in a Barnes and Noble very quickly, or a library. Yeah. I can just get lost, period. But but it's wonderful that they have, you know, in 2022, that they just built a Barnes and Noble by a university here in the last few years. Maybe it's been 5 years. I don't know. But I think it's wonderful that they're investing in your community.
Yep.
And the only reason they do that is because you patronize them.
Yeah, exactly. And now that things are getting back to normal, quote unquote, whatever that means, that is. Yeah. But they are now.
By the way, for listeners, you just did air quotes when you said
but I think that the nice thing is that they are opening back up, and you are going to be able to go and meet your favorite authors again in person. I mean, they did a fabulous job when the pandemic hit, and in trying to keep people connected, readers and authors connected via virtual. Sure. But there's just nothing like going and getting a book in your hands and talking to people about it. I mean, book lovers, that's all they want to do. They want to read, and then they want to talk about stories. And authors are book lovers. I mean, we all, that's part of our job. It's a perk of the job that we get to read, that you have to read. If you want to be a good author, you have to read. You have to read as much as you can and get your hands on as much as you can. And so we're all book lovers too. And we fangirl over our favorite authors. So it's not just them. It's not just readers and stuff, but Barnes and Noble and a lot of other bookstores, a lot of independent bookstores are starting to open up.
It's wonderful.
More, and it's great. Because I'm going to Denver early. I'll be in Colorado Springs on Saturday, but I'll also be in Denver on that Friday and the Thursday, kind of wandering around Denver. Some of it book research, some of it seeing old friends, but a lot of it I'll be hunting down my books and signing them. So, if you're in the Denver area, I don't know where I'll be, but you can look for my books in your favorite bookstore, and maybe there'll be a signed copy in there for you.
When you say that, again, I can't even imagine what it would be like to see your book in a bookstore, right?
It's crazy. I mean, when I first walked in, it was, I have a TikTok because I have to. My social media guru handles it all, but she posts stuff for me. But
it's got to be good to have a social media person. Right?
She's wonderful. But one of the biggest, the one post that went viral was me meeting one of my readers when I came into the Barnes and Noble and found my book for the first time, and it was just like, it's insane. It's unreal. And it's funny because I know I'm not used to it, because I forget to go into, when I'm like, I was down in Austin a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't go into the Barnes and Noble and look for my book because I'm still not used to my book being in there.
Yeah, that's
So I'm
interesting.
like, so my friend was like, I got your book. And I'm like, oh, where, which Barnes and Noble? And she's like, the one here. And I'm like, I was right next to it. My hotel was right next to the Barnes and Noble. And I never once went into it to see my book. So it's still, I think the newness is still there. So it's still a thrill that I hope is always there when you can walk into a bookstore and see your book there. But it was huge. It was pretty monumental. I've always wanted it.
With some of the reviews of The Wrong Woman, it's got to make you feel really good because you're getting wonderful reviews.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that people are connecting with Kendall. She's a little rough around the edges. She's very sarcastic. So if you like sarcasm, Kendall is your girl. So yeah, I like that. I like that she's not perfect. She's kind of a hothead in a business where in an occupation where she probably shouldn't be so much a hothead, but then she knows she's got an empathetic side that she kind of hides a lot. But it's there, and she deals with children in the worst situations in life on a daily basis. So I love her. I love Adam. He's kind of where she's rough, he's not so rough. I mean, yeah, he's a little softer. And she kind of walks all over him, and he just takes it, and they become best of buds. So I love their relationship a lot. So
that's incredible. I've got to ask you before I forget about For the Love of Dogs and information that you've got at your website. Again, that's leannekaleparks.com.
Yeah, I have if you go to my website, you can see my puppies, past and present, and my grand puppy who lives out in San Diego. So I do currently have a long-haired German Shepherd named Zoe. She is
interesting you say that, because that's the page I'm looking at right now. Is Zoe. She's beautiful.
She's a pill. We've had German Shepherds in the past. They've been male. And they were always funny because they were very particular about things. One didn't like being dirty. One didn't like, the water had to be just perfect. If it sat out for too long, it was not good. And she is she's crazy. She loves the mud. She wants to be out in the rain. She just is so rough and tumble and and she's a total daddy's girl. So it's really funny. It's great. And she's crazy.
How did you get her she's got the bandana on and a hat in the one picture?
Yeah. That's her birthday. That was for her birthday. She was a good sport. She always gives, her favorite thing to do is give her mama side eye. She just looks at me like, you're crazy.
I love that. And people see the pictures, and I'm a big animal lover and dog lover and everything. So again, I so enjoyed going through that at your website, leannekaleparks.com. You also advocate for the organizations, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about Best Friends, and if you would.
Yeah, I really love that there are organizations out there that you can,
that's right,
go to and help dogs that, there are people just like people neglect other people, they neglect their dogs too. So
horrible.
It's really nice to be able to give back and help dogs a little bit. And so I have two organizations that you can link to and give to, if that's something that
that's wonderful.
You feel moved to do.
Yeah, and again, some people can't foster or can't adopt, but you can always donate. Some people can't donate for whatever reason. They're living somewhere where they can't have dogs, or economics, or they're traveling a lot for work or whatever, and that's always something you can do. And the
Crossing Animal Sanctuary, if you look on my for the dogs page and you see the white German Shepherd that's on there, that's where he came from. And they are a wonderful animal sanctuary in Pennsylvania. And so I still always donate to them. And I mean, but you don't have to donate to the ones that I have listed. Find one in your area. There are always
There's
rescues
yeah.
that need everything. Yeah. They just really need help. And the people that are running them are doing it out of the goodness of their hearts and putting a lot of money into the rescue as well as their time. So it's important to be able to help our little four-legged friends
yeah,
out.
I agree. And people can volunteer. I know most of them that I'm familiar with always could use some volunteer for whatever. So if you can't afford to donate, maybe you can volunteer some time. And they're so important. When you talk about people being neglected, yeah, most people, depending on mental state, are able to reach out to an organization or someone will find neglected. The dogs can't do that. The rabbits can't do that. The cats can't do that.
Yeah, they don't have a voice. I mean, and like you said, people that in need, there are ways to get help. You have to express it. You have to say the words. Well, pets and animals, they can't do that. They can't. So they need help in being able to be taken care of. And that's just, I'm just very, very, I just
passionate?
Don't understand.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm passionate. I'm passionate about it. And I'm not really sure
don't understand
what I was, I don't understand how people don't, how they can not see that a pet or an animal can just be as much part of the family as a human.
Oh, so yeah, sometimes a better part of the family.
Definitely.
Depending on your family, right?
Yep.
So, I've got in the remaining minutes, I've got to tell you, I have over the years, Squire Rushnell and Louise Duart, who did Godwinks years ago, a series, if you've heard of it. Well, they've got a book that came out, I think towards the end of last year, called Dog Winks. And it was funny. I've got to get a picture to Kim to send to you. I had a lady in the studio that had brought her dog in, and of all the books and all the stuff I've got there, the one book he chewed on was seriously. I mean,
of course.
I don't know if you can see the chew marks.
Oh, that's nice.
On that,
that's
right. And there was a picture of this dog on the floor, and it looks like he's reading the book. He's got the book open. I mean, and by the way, I hope you don't mind if people that have Netflix should see Rescued by Ruby, and you want to talk about it. And if you haven't seen it, if you're able to, Rescued by Ruby, it's one of the stories from the book. And it's just the most amazing story about, and again, I don't want to do spoilers, about this dog and the person that was trying to save it. And then it's amazing. And they can become, like you say, best friends.
Yep.
And true unconditional love.
Yep.
The humans throw the word around, and again, well-intended.
Yeah.
We love somebody. And I just hate to say this, but I guess I don't hate to say it if I'm going to say it. The unconditional love from a four-legged or winged family member is something we need to aspire to.
I think it goes back to that. I know, right? I think it goes back to the whole animals don't have they can't verbalize what they're saying. So we tend to say we love unconditionally, we do this, but a lot of times it doesn't have the force behind it that maybe a pet or an animal has, because they don't have the words. So they demonstrate. When a dog loves you, or when a cat loves you, or or when when a animal out in the wild that you help is benefited from it. They demonstrate it to you. So we throw words around all the time that maybe don't have the force and the conviction behind them, but you'll never doubt the love of a pet, the love of an animal. I
agree with you. And I'm when you're talking a little bit earlier about how people will mistreat or neglect an animal. And I think about you and your writing, how humans mistreat and do horrific things to other humans.
Yeah.
As you were talking about in your new book, which is due out next February. It's going to come around quick.
February. I know. As these things work, like you said, it's amazing that the Wrong Woman's been out as long as it has. It seems like just yesterday we were talking about it.
It
being,
does. Yeah. I was looking it up
out.
in that on the, yeah, I thought, wow, February.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, she was just on with me in February. And I'm thinking, that was months ago. It's May. I know. It's just, whew, I know I say that all the time. So your website is, tell us again.
It's leannekilesparks.com.
And there's a wealth of information and pictures of the doggies.
And pictures of the dogs. That's the best. I mean, go on, find out about me.
No, find out about you and get the Wrong Woman. And again, if you know someone out in where the book signing is.
Yeah, Colorado Springs is the book signing at Barnes and Noble at it's the
I know
Briar
someone
Gate
there. I've got to tell them.
Yeah, tell them to come out and see me. I'm there. I start at noon and I'll be there all afternoon on the north end of Colorado Springs. So yeah, come out and see me. And then, if you're up in Denver, go to your favorite bookstore and maybe you can bump into me there. Love to talk to people.
Where you're going to be doing research, as you said, and looking up
research. Yeah.
Do you have a minute to tell you doing research in Denver?
Well, I mean, hopefully the books will continue. And
for book 3?
I like to get well, let's not jinx it.
No, there's no jinxing. I'm not jinxing.
But I like to go and get familiar. I mean, it's been years since I've been back there, and we all know how progression and improvements and everything happens. So I like to just go back and things. I do have a friend that drives around and finds interesting places to hide bodies and stuff like that for me. Or if I have a question like, hey, what's this? Or hey, go check this out.
Interesting places to hide bodies.
Yeah. So yeah, that she found the place for Gwen's body in The Wrong Woman. So so she helps me, but there's nothing like actually being there, actually feeling and experiencing and seeing where things are in relation to how you write them. You can look on Google Maps and you can kind of get a feel for things. And I am familiar with the area, so I do kind of know things, but I haven't been there for a while. So it's kind of nice to get back and be able to just drive around and experience it.
That's wonderful. I have a blast with you, and I'm grateful to Kim, and I'm grateful to have you back and do the gig with you again anytime.
I love it.
I love your energy, and when you talking about seriously, man, and talking about the writing process. And I had some emails earlier about the name Kale, because I'm a big fan of kale, of the
of the cabbage,
leafy green, yeah. And I've had a food poisoning lawyer on. You're too young to remember the Jack in the Box case with food poisoning. That's where he started. It's before your time.
No, I don't think so. But
I do.
Thank you, though.
But but he said to me once on the show, I was talking about kale and how different things get into E. coli, and at that point they hadn't had any with kale. But he said to me, Louis, normal people don't eat kale. I said, well, I make up for the people that don't, or maybe he's just calling me abnormal. Or
I had no idea until I was about 18 or 19 that kale was a cabbage. I had no idea. I was like, what?
Really?
Yeah, no, never heard of it before. And which is funny because my uncle would plant it in his front yard as decorative. He had all sorts of
decorative.
He would plant,
wow.
Yeah, he would plant vegetables and stuff, and there are cabbages that turn purple and things like that. And lots of vegetables can actually be quite pretty. And so he would put them in his front yard, and I had no clue.
No clue what it was.
No clue what it was.
Yeah, interesting that. And I actually, there's someone in this area who's a friend of mine. His last name is Kale, and I go on and on about it, but I love it. And I'm sure the rabbits liked some of what he grew also.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We didn't mind.
Definitely. No, free for anybody, right?
There you go. That's right. Well, Leanne, Kale Sparks, again, a joy to have you on. So let's do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I love anytime. Tell me, I'm here.
I love talking. We're going to do it. I love talking with you also. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
She's
Bye-bye.
absolutely wonderful, folks. And again, we've got the links up at louisfreeshow.com. Again, that's louisfreeshow.com, or just go directly to Leanne, Kale, Sparks.com and a wealth of, and check out the doggies, the pictures of the doggies.